Welcome to the second edition of Know Before You Go to Europe. Fort Worth will be concentrating on four of our 9 sister cities, all in Europe: France, Germany, Hungary, and Italy. We have friends of ours live coming to you today to talk to you about what really is going on there, especially if you plan to travel anytime soon. I'm May Ferguson. I'm with Fort Worth Sister Cities International, and our mission is to promote Fort Worth globally and enrich our local community through international education, exchange, and commerce. And we do it in various ways. And we do it with the support of our wonderful members circle of giving. So I want to recognize just a few of those people. I hope they're on today and have them know that we really appreciate what they do. Our Visit Fort Worth, who is our platinum sponsor member, Mike and Ray Hyatt, our premium members, our global members, Alcon, DFW International Airport, Linebarger, Mary Palco, Texas Health Resource, and Frank Tilley and Connie Back. And you can see the list of many others, but we couldn't do it without their support. And if you're not a member of Fort Worth Sister Cities, we hope that you'll join. Go to our website at any time. We've got several other events coming up in the near future that we hope you will take part in. Several are virtual. So if you're here in the United States or your friends around the world, please join us. We have our Lunar New Year cooking class. It's a virtual dumpling cooking class that you can participate in. And then one in-person event coming up here in Fort Worth is the Kodomo no Hi Japanese Children Day Festival, which we're very proud of. And our committee has been working hard on that. So if you have young children and want to go to that, please join us. Stay tuned, because there's a new thing that Fort Worth is doing. It's called the Virtual Road Show. Each month, we will be highlighting one of our 9 sister cities with cultural activities or speakers that have topics that would be of interest to you. So go to our website, join our newsletter, and stay in touch with us and participate in whatever you would like. We are going to have 4 experts, as I said, or colleagues from our sister cities speak with you, and they will each share about 10 minutes on their particular city and country. While they are speaking, if you'll notice at the bottom of your screen, there's a Q&A box, not the chat box, but the Q&A. Put your questions there so that at the end, we can hopefully get all of them answered. They'll all 4 come back on at the very end and go through those questions. And I'm going to next introduce our moderator for today, Mr. Greg Jackson. Greg is a local attorney here in Fort Worth, and he is our chair-elect for the board of directors. He will be taking over that leadership role on October 1, and we're looking forward to our 2 years with him at the helm. So let me get out of the way and have Greg start introducing our speakers, and I will be back with you later. Thank you very much. Greg?
Thank you, May. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for attending. For our friends in Europe, it's late afternoon. So if you're from Europe, good afternoon. But I want to thank you all for joining. Before I call on our various speakers from Europe, I was going to give just a brief overview of what's happening here in the United States, really more specifically in Fort Worth and in Texas. As I understand, and I think one of our speakers can talk about this from recent travel experiences, but currently for visitors from outside the United States to enter the United States, they must have a negative test taken within 1 day of departure. And that's for US citizens and non-citizens. So anybody entering, and I understand the only exception is if you've recovered from COVID within the last 90 days. So pretty much anybody entering the US has to have a negative test, and that's regardless of whether you're vaccinated or not. On the subject of vaccination, I was going to give just a little bit of data about Fort Worth and Texas. And for our visitors from outside of Texas, Texas is divided up into a little more than 250 different counties. Fort Worth sits in Tarrant County, so I was going to be able to provide the data for Tarrant County. It sounds like we have about 67% of Tarrant County residents who are 5 years or older have received at least one dose of the vaccine, and about 59% of Tarrant County residents are fully vaccinated. Compare that to the Texas data. Texas, about 74% of residents 5 or older have received at least one dose. So in Texas, it's about 74, and in Tarrant County, it's about 67. So you can see a little bit of a difference there. And then also statewide, those who have been fully vaccinated is a little over 62% compared to about 59% here in Tarrant County. So we're lagging a little bit behind the state average on vaccination. Texas is fully open for business. The governor has declared there can be no mask mandates really anywhere in the state by government authority. So a county cannot require a mask. I mean, I think that's been subject to some dispute. Individual businesses are free to require mask wearing. I know here in Fort Worth, you see it very infrequently, but you kind of carry a mask in your pocket, just in case you might need one. As some examples, I know if you go to a Dallas Cowboys football game, which is in Tarrant County, it can hold 90 to 100,000 people, and there's no mask required. But if you go to a Dallas Mavericks basketball game in Dallas County, that stadium holds about 20,000 people, and they do require a mask. My wife and I went to a performance hall here in Fort Worth this past Friday night, and they required a mask be worn at all times. So it kind of varies from here to there, but for the most part, everything else is really open for business. Our schools are open. I know we've had some school districts who closed for a few days here recently because of a spike in cases due to Omicron, but for the most part, schools are open. They're in person, and everybody's trying to get back to normal. So with that gives a little bit of an overview of what's happening here on the ground in Fort Worth and in Texas. And so first, I'm going to call on our good friend from Trier, Germany, Mr. Norbert Kaethler. He's the managing director of Trier Tourismus and Marketing. So Norbert, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Greg. Thank you, Mayor, for attending this fantastic opportunity to tell you something about Trier, about Germany, and well, good morning to our friends in Texas, and good afternoon to our friends in Europe. And well, in general, I would say Trier is less affected from the pandemic situation than other cities in Germany or other regions in Germany and in Europe. Well, we have some restrictions, but in general, at the moment, life in Trier feels quite normal. Well, restaurants are open, museums are open, shops are open, schools, hotels, everything is open, and you could attend everything if you are vaccinated. So in Germany, in general, vaccination is necessary to take part in these institutions, to take part in touristic travel. And in general, when you come from other countries, it depends if they are high-risk countries or not. So that's very, very different. United States are, as I know today, not a high-risk country. So you could travel to Germany and you could take part in all these things. The situation will probably worsen for the next weeks. At the moment, we look every day. We look at well, the number of infected people, and at the moment we have in Trier around 900 people per 100,000 people in 1 week. So the data is about 900, and it will increase, we think, until the end of February, and after it will improve again. So when I would be asked when is a good time to travel to Trier, I would well, I would say from March, better from April. There in spring there should be a good situation, and it should be possible to travel, and it should be also possible and a good time to travel through Germany again. Well, what happens in summer in Trier? What are the reasons for you to come to Trier? I would say the major reason this year is that we have a very, very interesting exhibition this year in Trier. You know, Olympic Games are every four years, and in Trier, every 4 years, we have a major exhibition about the Romans. And this year, the subject of the exhibition will be the end of the Roman Empire. The end of the Roman Empire, when Trier was one of the Roman capitals, with Rome, with Constantinople. Trier, well, this empire stopped to exist. There come tribes from the north. The Germanen came, and they stopped. Well, they finished the Roman Empire. The Roman Empire went down, and all this could be seen in Trier. There is a big exhibition, and at the same time we have also a festival. We have shows, so it's really interesting. And to give you a brief impression what will happen then, we have produced a nice show of 1 hour, so 100 years of the end of Roman Empire in 1 hour. And we have a short video in German. I apologize, it's in German, but we also could make guided tours in English. And if you come in summer from June till November this year to Trier, you could get an impression. And I think we now could start with a video so that you can see how it feels and how it looks like.
Jenseits von Germanien gibt es ein Land voller Wunder und Schätze, das Römische Reich. Sie erzählt mir davon. Hel, die Göttin des Schicksals. Lerne kämpfen, sagt sie zu mir. Und ich führe dich in dieses Reich. In die alte Kaiserstadt Trier. In das reiche Konstantinopel. Und in das ewige Rom. Aber das Reich ist in Gefahr. Der Kaiser ist bedroht. Ich, ein Germane, werde entscheiden, ob dieses Imperium weiterlebt oder ob Rom untergeht.
So you get a brief impression, and I hope you enjoyed, and I hope you come this summer to Trier, because well, this was just a minute. We have this big exhibition. We have I think this fantastic show, and we have lots of other reasons, because you can travel 2000 years into history in Trier and get a certain impression. And if you have some questions, I think we'll have that later.
Thank you, Norbert. Appreciate it. That was very, very interesting. I wish I could come to Trier this this summer. So maybe I'll get to see you. Next, we have our good friend from Reggio Emilia, Mariana Rochelli. She's with the E35 Foundation. For those of you who may or may not know, the E35 is a major roadway through Europe that runs from Rome to Amsterdam and runs right through the Emilia territory. So Mariana, the floor is yours. Mariana, I think you're muted.
I'm sorry, now can you hear me? Yes,
Yes.
Wonderful. So good morning to everybody and good afternoon to everybody too. Thank you to Greg and thank you to Fort Worth Sister Cities for inviting Reggio Emilia to attend to this event. I would like to share my screen because you can see my screen. Can you give me a feedback, Greg, if you see my screen? Correct? Okay, thank you.
Yes, we see it.
Okay, thank you so much. So I would like to give you a very brief and short introduction about how is going in Italy about the COVID restriction. Okay, my first slide, I would like to give you a very, very general overview about Europe in general. You can see the map of the European Union and the different color, most of the color can you see that are red. What does it mean? Doesn't mean that in the last month, in the last week in particular, due to Omicron variant, of course, the number of the people affected to COVID is increasing so much. This picture is taken from this website that is called Reopening EU, that I suggest to the people that want to come in Europe, not only in Italy, but in Europe in general, to visit, just to have a general overview about the endemic of the pandemic. This doesn't mean that if the whole Europe is red, you cannot travel in Italy or in the other country. But of course, you have to take in consideration, as also our colleague from Germany already said, that the number of cases are increased in the last months. But we are very optimistic also in according with the last year. We see that in the spring and in the summertime, the situation will be last year will go better, and this year we are really optimistic. So my first sentence is, if you want to come in Italy, if you want to come in Europe, maybe please wait another month to be sure to not be affected by COVID, and waiting just 1 month to coming, but you can absolutely come from March and April. In the details, what about Italy? You can see that the number of people that have already complete the vaccination are around the 80% of the population. At the beginning, in my first slide, I show you a map of Europe with red color, but of course, it's different from each country. Each country, and also in each country is different from region. In this map, you can see the map of Italy with 2 colors, yellow and orange. The red bottom is where I am in Emilia-Romagna. Reggio Emilia is in Emilia-Romagna region in the north side of Italy. And we are yellow now. At this time, we are yellow region. Most of Italy are in yellow. There are some regions that are in orange. And what does it mean, this? If you are in a yellow region, you can do almost wherever you want, what you want. The shops are open, the industry are open, of course, for worker to have a green pass. And when I talk about green pass, I'm talking about to have a complete the vaccination, to have received all the vaccination, of course. So in yellow region, the shops are open. You can go to the theater, you can go to the cinema, you can go to the museum. Of course, you have to, you must have your green pass, and different from Texas, for example, the mask is mandatory. It's not mandatory if you are walking outside, but for go in a shop, in a museum, in a cinema, is mandatory to wear a mask. What about the restaurant? Because if we want to have tourists and tourism visit Italy, of course, you want to enjoy our cuisine and so on. What about restaurant and bar? The restaurant and bar are open if you are in a yellow region, and the same for an orange region, of course. But you have to be vaccinated if you wanna sit inside and also outside to the restaurant and outside to the bar. Yellow and orange region, there are not so many difference between those two regions. You are in our orange region, is recommended to not go out from your region. And there are some other restrictions related to sport, activity, theater and museum, but most of them are related to the construction sites for how many people can stay in a restaurant or in a theater or in a region. What about the travel information? There are many flights. 2 years ago, I remember in March and April, there was no flight connection United States and Italy. Yes, there was very few flights. Now there are many flights that connection USA and Italy, but USA is in list D for the European Commission. What does it mean? Does it mean that for the American people that want to come in Europe and in particular in Italy, you have to be aware and following this 3 steps. The first step is that you have to fill in a passenger location form just before arrive in Italy, just a couple of days before arrive in Italy. Is it an online form that you fill in just 2 minutes, but is mandatory if you are fly in Italy. This passenger location form is also mandatory if you want to fly to France, Malta, and Slovenia. In the other country in Europe, like Spain, Portugal, and Germany, I suppose, is not mandatory. But if you want to come in Italy, yes, it's mandatory. Another thing that is mandatory if you want to come in Italy is, of course, you have to show your certificate, COVID certificates. If you don't have any COVID certificate, or if you have just 1 or 2 doses, so you don't have finished your the entire course of the vaccination, you have to do 5 days of quarantine when you arrive in Italy. The last step that you have to follow is to have a negative test before come in Italy. This test could be an antigenic test just 24 hours before arrive in Italy, or a molecular test 72 hours before come in Italy. Those are the 3 main aspects that you have to follow if you want to come in Italy. What's happened if you come in Italy? You have followed the 3 steps before. You come in Italy after 1, 2, or 3 days. You don't feel good. You feel sick, and of course, you are positive. My suggestion, first of all, is book a very nice hotel with a wonderful view, because you have to stay from 7 to 25 days in quarantine, of course, on your cost. I say from 7 to 21 days of quarantine because it's different. You can do an antigen test after 10 days or after 7 days if you have fully vaccinated. And if you feel good after 7 days and your test is negative and you are fully vaccinated, you can go out. If after 7 days, you make an antigen test and you are still positive, you have to stay in quarantine. In any case, at the end of the 21 days of quarantine, you are allowed to go out. But this is mandatory. I put here just a very general overview of the cost of the antigen test. That is different if you do this test in a pharmacy or in a public, in a private, space. It's cost from could cost from 15 to 50 euro for test. And a molecular one could cost also more, from 60 euro, and then also until 100 euro. That's depend where you are doing this test. If you are doing in a pharmacy or in the hospital or in a public structure. My suggestion absolutely is traveling, if you want to traveling in Italy, traveling with the support of a travel agency, because in this case, the travel agency can provide to you the list of the pharmacies, depending on the city you are, and the list of the restriction, because this restriction that I told you to you now are valid until the end of this month. There are some rumors that the European Commission will, the government, I'm sorry, will continue with some restriction, in particular related to antigenic tests for the people that are traveling to Italy, and in particular for the one who traveling from the country in the list D, like United States. What about the kids? Because probably your idea has to come in Europe also with your family. Things that I'm happy that you will do it. About the kids, if the kids are from 0 to 5 years old, there are no COVID test requests. If the kids are from 6 to 18, our COVID test is requested. It depends also for them if are vaccinated or not. My suggestion absolutely is contact before the embassy, the American embassy in Italy, in Rome, in Milano, or traveling with the support of a travel agency. Or if you have a friend in Italy, ask to them, because if you see, you can see different information in many websites on internet, in particular related to how many hours before I have to do the test to come in Italy. So my suggestion is, first of all, is waiting another month to come, because the number of the people that are getting ill are quite high now, really quite high now. But from March and April, we are more optimistic. Last but not least, what about the last 2 years in Italy and in Reggio Emilia? We didn't have a lot of tourism, of course, in particular in 2020. We just have tourism for business and tourists from the country close to Italy. But last year was running a little bit better. In particular, we have tourism from also from United States. We didn't have tourism from the Asian area, of course, because they are not allowed to travel in Europe and in particular in Italy. And for the summer, how can I say, we see the light at the end of the tunnel. Our municipality are planning for a lot of activity during the summertime, in particular when you can enjoy the city say outside. There will be a lot of festival related to kids, education, related to photography and so on, but not only in Reggio Emilia. When I talk with my friend from other city in the north side and the south side of Italy, all they are very optimistic, and they are working to welcome people from Europe and people from United States, because we're thinking that from spring there will be the possibility to return in a sort of normal way. This is all for me. Thank you so much for your attention.
Thank you, Mariana. Appreciate it very much. Next, we're going to go to Budapest, Hungary, and we're going to hear from Anna Maria Choti. She's the head of the tourism division for the Budapest brand. Anna Maria, welcome, and we look forward to your presentation.
Thank you very much, Greg. Thank you for your nice introduction. And hello, everybody. Good morning and good afternoon here in Europe. I would like to share my screen. Just a moment, please. Can you see it? Can you see it?
Yes, we can now. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Just a moment, I'm very sorry. So welcome everybody, and I will speak to you some words and some information about the current situation here in Hungary. And of course, I will tell you some words what has happened in 2021 and our expectation for 2022. So let me start, please. So here in Hungary, more than 6 million people have been vaccinated against COVID-19, and more than 3 million people are vaccinated with 3 vaccinations as well. So it is a very good news for us, and it is very good for the tourism as well. Regarding the international pandemic, entry rules entered into force in Hungary are available and summarize all information on the website about hungary.hu. So please visit this website before you plan any travel to Budapest. It is really very important because the current information and the strict information are on this website. So it is really very important to check this. Check all the information on the about hungary.hu. So currently wearing the mask is mandatory in the following cases: on the public transport and bus stops, in all areas of healthcare and social institutions, in shop and shopping centers, in museums, theaters and cinemas, in all public areas of public administration and postal services, for services where more than 5 people are regularly present in the same room, and at the venue of indoor sporting events. It is very important that hotels, restaurants, spas, and beaches can be visited without an immunity certificate. The obligation to provide proof of immunity applies to the attendance of mass events, such as sporting events, cultural events, visited by the, it is very important that pre-purchase ticket is mandatory, and music or dance events, other outdoor events with 500 participants, and other indoor events as well. And it is also very important that you can proof of immunity may be provided by the immunity certificate issued by the Hungarian authorities, by the EEST application as well, and by the foreign immunity certificate recognized by Hungary. And from 1st of July 2021 by the EU digital COVID certificate confirming either vaccination or recovery from disease as well. And it is also very important to visit the website of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Trade, because all information and all strict information are on that website as well. So there are two very important websites, about hungary.hu and the Foreign Ministry website, which is very important to visit before traveling any trip to Budapest. I'm very sorry, but something is working so here we are, okay. And it is also very important that our country is open from 2021 June, and we are waiting for August here in our beautiful capital. And everybody can come, and they need only, they should have the certification, or they should have the negative PCR test. It is also acceptable. And we opened our tourist information centers at the airport and in the downtown as well. And since then, Budapest is continuously open to visit. We are very proud that we were able to organize successfully the Budapest Christmas Fair at the Vörösmarty Square, which was some restrictions, but it was really very successful, because only less than 500 people were able to be at the Vörösmarty Square at the same time. But with these restrictions, we were able to organize this event, and it was really very, very successful. And finally, I will tell you some words about the Hungarian tourism sector expectation for 2022. And we much hope we can keep the border open. And at the same time, it is highly recommended to check our official websites. And due to we worked very closely together with the Hungarian Hotel and Restaurant Association and the Budapest Spas, and of course the Budapest Airport, that I can tell you that these associations' expectations for 2022 is the follows: that we will achieve the numbers and the figures of 2019. So it is our expectation, and we are really very positive, and we look forward welcoming everybody to visit our beautiful country. So we are really very optimistic with this. So we much hope that everything is coming back to the same situation as it was in 2019. So this was the important information I wanted to share with you. And of course that you can visit our website as well, or you can send me any questions on the following email address, the sales@budapestbrand.eu, and I am looking forward welcoming any question, and then of course we will answer as soon as possible. And thank you very much for your kind attention.
Thank you, Anna Maria.
Thank you.
That as well. And then last but certainly not least, I'm going to call on Michael Sorum, who is a special liaison for Fort Worth to Nîmes. Mr. Sorum is from Fort Worth, is currently living in Nîmes, and comes to us from Nîmes today. So Michael, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Good morning, Greg, and good morning to all of our guests in the States, and good afternoon to our friends in Europe. It's great to be here with you and to share a little bit about what's going on in France. Currently, France is about 78% fully vaccinated, and that's the same for our region here in Nîmes. And to enter France, you have to have a negative test result, obviously, and full vaccination papers. I would suggest to anybody considering traveling, as my colleagues here in Europe have shared with you, stay up to date on all the websites. The US Embassy website, as well as the French government website, has all of the most current information. And then also to really make certain with your airline that you have the paperwork that they will require for boarding your flight. I have seen a number of people. I have actually traveled back and forth from the States, from France to the States during COVID. So I've been a few times over the last couple of years, and a number of cases I've seen people show up at their flight and they don't yet have their paperwork for their final destination, and they get into all kinds of trouble. So just be perfectly prepared, check the websites, have all your paperwork done. In my latest iteration of travel, which was this weekend, I was passing through Spain, and I had to have a QR code from the Spanish government in order to board my flight in Portland, with a transfer in Dallas, and eventually landing in Barcelona. And I got to the airport, and a number of people hadn't gotten their QR code, and the website wasn't working well that morning, and people missed their flights. So just make sure you overplan and that you pay attention to all those details, because you can't, if you don't have everything you need at your originating flight, you won't be able to board. In fact, there were some people on my flight in Portland saying, well, I can get it in Dallas. Well, they wouldn't let them board in Portland to get to Dallas, to get to Madrid. So just be really prepared. Currently, the situation here is that starting February 2nd, masks will no longer be required outdoors. Currently, it's still anticipated that they will be required indoors. However, that is evolving rapidly and or constantly, and it's currently moving toward being more open. And so things will probably be less restrictive over the next few weeks and next couple of months, which was the case last summer, and then things tightened up again in the fall. So again, just be prepared. The situation changes regularly, but it's all very well publicized. Everything is open here in France. There are a few restrictions for some concerts and things of that nature, but for anything that the average tourist is going to do, check the website of where you're going. And again, just to be prepared. I would advise, we are having some labor shortages, and that is affecting restaurants to some degree. And so I'd recommend, and Americans, we don't always have this habit as much, but to make sure if you're planning to eat in a restaurant during the day, to make a reservation, preferably the night before, or calling in the morning, or a lot of restaurants have a website you can make a reservation. Or if you're without a reservation, get to the restaurant as close to noon as you can and try to get a place, but don't expect to get to a restaurant at 1 o'clock without a reservation and have a seating. So that's for any sit down type restaurant, and of course not, just going up to a snack bar or something like that. That's just a little helpful hint. For those of you who don't know Nîmes, I'll just do a little bit of a pitch here for I think we're our newest sister city. We're located just about 20 miles off the Mediterranean coast, right about halfway between Spain and Italy. We're on all of the major thoroughfares, both the rail and freeways. So we're very easy access from northern France, northern Europe, as well as from Spain and from Italy. You can land at Charles de Gaulle in Paris, take the fast train right out of the train station, be in downtown Nîmes in less than 3 hours. So, and then we also have major airports, Marseille and Montpellier, which are less than an hour from Nîmes. In terms of, obviously I said we're at the Mediterranean, so we have a wonderful, nice, sunny Mediterranean climate. Our summers are hot and dry. So if you are coming in the summer, even my Texan friends, be ready to be warm. And we don't always have air conditioning at the same degree that our American friends are used to. So if you make your reservations, make sure your hotel is air conditioned if you'd like that. Our springs and falls are just lovely, mild and warm, and our winters are really lovely, also nice and mild, a little frosty in the morning sometimes. And today is about 55 in the afternoon with a bright sun. So things to do in the area. We are, as I said, right off the coast. So we have lovely Mediterranean beaches. We're just about 30 minutes from a mountain range called the Cevennes Mountains, which go up to 3,000 or 4,000 feet. And so you can escape the heat in the summer and go up there. Wonderful Roman ruins all around, incredibly well preserved. Nîmes has one of the best preserved amphitheaters in the Roman world. We have a temple right downtown Nîmes that has been in continuous service since Roman times, has been used constantly, as well as a lot of other things in the area. Arles is very nearby, and lots to do in terms of hiking and boating and canoeing, and of course, wonderful wines. We have some great wine tourism opportunities that are not as pricey as other areas of France. And then beautiful museums, historic museums, as well as art museums. So there's just lots to do. All kinds of festivals are going on in the summer. Currently, everything is planning to be up and running this summer. But again, situation can change, but it's looking positive. And I would just encourage anybody to come. It's a good time. We probably have fewer tourists this summer, so it might be a nice time to be here. We had quite a few tourists last summer, but primarily French tourists as well as European tourists. But it was kind of an interesting change to have lots of French tourists in downtown Nîmes in the summer. So I think that's about all. And come to France. We're love to have you, and everybody have a great day.
Michael, I'd like to keep you on for just a second. That concludes the presentation portion of our webinar, but I have some questions, and I had one specifically for France. I thought I would ask for you. We have someone asking if France requires the booster. I know we call it a booster here in the United States, the third dose. It sounds like a lot of our European colleagues just call it the third shot, or 3 out of 3. Is France requiring the booster in any way, as far as you know, the third dose?
When I just came now, I am a Johnson & Johnson 1-shot person, and I have not had my booster yet, and I was not asked for that, but I'm still within the time frame of what was the validity of my shot. So if you've ran past your, I'm not sure what the right term would be, your expiration date, then I would definitely have your booster. But yeah, I mean, the idea is to be fully protected. So
yeah, And I'd like to keep you on for one more question too, Michael, because of your recent travels through Spain. And I'm going to invite Mariana to join us as well, because the question affects Italy also. The question I had was, if we were to test negative and fly from the United States to Spain first, and then 4 days later fly to Rome, would we have to test again to go to Italy? So I don't know if one or both of you can answer that question.
If you want, I can answer, because if you are flight from United States to Spain, and then you stay for 2 or 3 days in Spain, and then you want to fly to Italy, after 3 days, you have to do another test, because as this restriction related to a negative test to come in Italy is not only for United States, it's also from if you are traveling from Spain, Germany, or other country. So yes, if you have if you did one to travel to Germany, to Spain, and then you stay in Spain 2 or 3 days, you have to do another one in Spain before to come in Italy. So this is why my suggestion, because I see on the Q&A box, if there are very good flight connection, for example, from Germany to Italy, my suggestion is travel directly from New York to Italy. So you are sure that there are any problem. I remember when I fly to Fort Worth, I change in UK my first time, and then in Frankfurt the other time. But if you are from Fort Worth, you can travel directly to New York, and from New York you can take direct flight to Milano. So you are, or Rome, for example, because there are daily flights to Italy from New York, for example. So you are sure that you don't have to step over in another airport.
And Mariana, thank you. And on that same question, I'll invite Norbert to join in as well, because the question was asking are you seeing flights coming into Italy from Germany on a regular basis? Or Norbert, are you aware of the regular flights from Germany to Italy?
Well, the problem is we always we now speak about the situation at the moment. Well, and the situation and the regulation could change every week, so it's quite difficult. To answer first the other question, what happens with Frankfurt when you arrive in Frankfurt in April? Well, I cannot anticipate what the quarantine rule is in April, but if it is the same rule like now, you have to be in quarantine at least for 5 days. That's the situation for high-risk regions. I've looked at the statistics at the moment. United States, I told wrong. At the moment, United States is from the 25th of December. It's categorized as high-risk country, but that could change next week. That could change next month. That's quite difficult to anticipate. And the same, for example, if you go to Italy and then to Frankfurt, it depends how long you stay in Italy. If you stay longer than 72 hours in Italy, then it is looked how is Italy categorized. Well, that depends on the time you have been in Italy. But my personal anticipation is that in April or in May, it will improve, and probably it will not be so strict like now. But it's quite difficult to say that and to anticipate that in a secure way. Yeah.
So Norbert, currently, if an American arrives in Frankfurt, there's a mandatory quarantine, and that's regardless of vaccination.
Well, regardless of the vaccination, it's 5. It is at the moment 5 days. The difference between being vaccinated, being boosted, or being not vaccinated is that, for example, if you are boosted, you have big advantages in using cultural programs or in going into restaurants, because when you are boosted, you do not need an additional test. When you are not boosted, you must have the vaccination plus a test. That's the situation in Germany. And another question was, is that in all regions the same? To tell you the truth, at the moment it's almost the same, but it's not exactly the same. I would say 9 from 10 regions in Germany have this situation, and there are some exceptions, especially when you are in a region with a very, very high infection rate. That could change.
Okay. And Norbert, on that same topic, we just had another question that if you arrive in Frankfurt and need to quarantine, you know, how does that happen? Do you stay in a hotel on your own at your own cost?
I think that is a question I must answer via email, because I'm not from the from the authorities in this respect. I think you must pay the hotel on your own. That's quite the normal thing in the EU, and I think you can book it on your own. I do not think you are put into a certain hotel, but I could, well, how is it about in other European countries? Perhaps someone could answer.
Because I know I can say, at least as of last summer, there was a requirement in the United States. If you were traveling to Hawaii, the state of Hawaii had their own restrictions. And for a time, when you came into the state of Hawaii, you were required to quarantine. And the Hawaiian authorities, you had to provide the name of the hotel where you were staying. And I understood that the Hawaiian authorities would contact the hotel to confirm that you had actually arrived at the hotel. And they would even provide a room key that only worked one time. So you could get into your room, but if you left your room, you could not return, and you'd have to, you know, go get a new key. And so they were very, very strict on the enforcement, at least in the state of Hawaii, you know, here in the United States. So I'd be interested to hear, you know, how that's happening in other countries, especially enforcement of a quarantine.
If I say something, in Italy, if you have to do a quarantine, it's on your cost. All the costs related to the quarantine, it's up to you, the test, the molecular test, and so on. In particular, and it's not so, it's probably that the sanitary service will contact you, but maybe not in the first 2 or 3 days at this time, because the number of the cases are very increased. So many people stay at home longer because they didn't receive yet the documentation related to COVID, to the end of the quarantine, for example. But for sure in Italy, if you have to do quarantine, it's on your cost.
Greg, this is Mike. I would add, in France, there's not currently a quarantine if you're just arriving in France. But if you are quarantined, I would, and I'm sorry that I don't have the details like Anna Maria had, but that is something that I would, you know, for anybody considering to come, I would know the rules of what the quarantine rules are. And I would expect, you know, you'll have to pay the hotel yourself. And then I would also expect that the rules will be enforced. So it's not something you can play with. If you have a quarantine in France, if you're quarantined to your hotel, you can expect visits and follow through. So I would be well informed of any of those things before anybody comes. And then also, let's see, I had another thought, but it escaped me. Oh yes, I don't think, for people considering to come, I don't think this is the time to plan, you know, a 15-city European tour. I mean, I think this is a time to come and spend a week or 10 days in a region or a city, or, you know, one of our sister cities, and get to know the area and, you know, get to know the people. and be comfortable there. I don't think it's not a time to play with trying to get across borders and things like that. You might get away with it, but it's not like going from Texas to Oklahoma. You just follow the rules and be safe, and you'll have a great time. There's lots to do, and people will be glad to have you here, but it's not a time to stretch things.
Yeah, and thank you, Michael. And Anna Maria, do you have anything to add on that, or can you also speak to the question of whether there might be different restrictions in different regions of Hungary?
Not something, or I think the most things are similar to Germany. And I think it is also important that, for example, I can tell you some words about how the Christmas fair was running. For example, when people from USA came for the business reason to Budapest or to Hungary, they were allowed to come in without any restriction. But to attend the Christmas fair, it was very important to have the negative PCR test, because Hungary and the USA, we don't have the rules that we can accept, for example, your COVID, or how do you say the COVID? I wanted to tell you, I'm sorry.
Like a proof of vaccination?
Yes,
Yeah.
you're right. So it was really very interesting, and it was really very difficult, but a lot of people from USA also visit the Christmas fair, because we have different points in the center of the city where they were able to make a test. And when they had the negative PCR test in their hand, they were able to visit the Christmas fairs as well. And it is the same situation at the moment with USA here in Hungary. For business reason, you can come anytime. But to attend, for example, the sport events or the bigger events, then more than 500 people are attending these events, you need a negative PCR test at the moment. And hopefully everything will be changed in April, and hopefully that for the summertime, everything will be easier.
And currently in Hungary, is there any requirement of quarantine on arrival?
At the moment, no. If you have a negative PCR test or if you are vaccinated, you don't have to go to the quarantine. If you don't have any negative PCR test, then you have to go for 10 days, and it is your cost.
Great, thank you. Norbert, did you have something to add?
Well, just to add, in Germany, the rule is that you go into quarantine, and after 5 days you make this PCR test, and if this is negative, then you can stop your quarantine. So that's the way it works, and that works quite well. And for example, we had lots of visitors during the Christmas market, even from United States, and they could go onto this market with a vaccination proof. So without vaccination proof, you were not allowed to go into theater. You were not allowed, or you are not allowed to go to a market. You are not allowed to go into a shop. Well, that's important, or into a restaurant. That's not allowed without vaccination. So we have a very, very strict difference between vaccinated people and not vaccinated people.
Where your Christmas market there in Trier was open this past Christmas?
Yes, it was open, and it was very well. Well, it was not so successful like the years before, but it had a good feeling. Well, we had I think more or less 30 days of real Christmas market with 100 little Christmas shops and so on, and was quite a good time.
And throughout Germany, are you aware, were there other regions of Germany where the Christmas markets were closed?
We had in southern Germany, the Christmas markets were closed. In the middle and in the north, they were opened, and in Trier it was restricted just for vaccinated. In other cities, it was totally open. So it's quite difficult. You always I would say what Michael said. It's a good time to come into one country, and then you have to look at the regional situation. What is a good region to go to, and that's probably good to plan 4 weeks before you travel. It's not very good to plan now for July, because it's quite difficult to anticipate what happens exactly in July.
Great, thank you. Okay, May, I think we have, I want to be respectful of everybody's time. I think our time is up, and so I will turn the floor back over to you. Thank you to all of our panelists for the great discussion.
Thank you, Greg. And I agree with his comments to all of you, all of our friends that we know so well. Thank you so much for being with us today. From the comments I saw as well, I think it was very much appreciated. I think the one thing we learned was, and I tell people this, we never plan more than 2 weeks out because things could change. So I think that's the best piece of advice, of just constantly do your homework, your due diligence if you plan to travel. But we want you to go to all of our sister cities, these 4 in particular. I'm going to be taking a group to Toluca, Mexico, our sister city down south, in just a few weeks. And it will be our first foray into international exchanges. And then we're later on going to Reggio Emilia in April, and hopefully Nîmes in September. Anna Maria and Norbert, we hope that Budapest and Trier will be on the schedule for 2023 as well. We have a goal to go and visit and rekindle our relationship with all of our 9 sister cities over the next 3 years. So stay tuned. Visit our website for latest information. Our newsletter comes out monthly. You can hear and read about the things and activities we have planned for you. Thank you all for being here. Thank you to all of our members who made this possible. If you're not a member, please come and join with us. And we hope to see you in person, if not here in Fort Worth, in one of these wonderful sister cities. Thank you all, and everyone have a wonderful rest of your day. Goodbye.